Coming up on the W Show, the Lions flex their muscles against the Western Bulldogs, but it wasn't all doom and gloom for the travelling team. Collingwood's injury crisis takes another hit. Skipper Bree Davey and star midfielder Britt Bonici, the latest casualties. What's going wrong at the Cats and the Suns? We take a look ahead of their clash on Saturday. Plus, Melbourne assistant Ben Brown joins us in the studio as the Dees suffer back-to-back losses. This is the W Show, thanks to NAB. It certainly is. Great to have your company on the W Show. Thanks to NAB. Sarah Ollie in the host chair today, and back as she is every week, award-winning journalist Sarah Black. Hello, Sarah.
Hello, sir. Nice to be here. Halfway through a round. We've had midweek footy.
We will get to that. There certainly is indeed. And we're very lucky to be joined by a special guest. He's a Melbourne Premiership player. He's an assistant of this AFLW side in the Dees. Ben Brown is his name. Welcome, Ben.
And unfortunately, not another Sarah. It would have been nice to make it triple.
Hey, when in doubt, go with Sarah on this show.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But as you alluded to, Sarah, we are very much in the midst of midweek footy, and last night at Brighton Homes Arena, it was the Lions with a really dominant first half, getting the win over the Western Bulldogs. And Taylor Smith, Sarah, she was sensational.
Well, we see Dakota Davidson on the sideline there. She was the latest of late withdrawals with gastro, we believe. Definitely an illness there. And Taylor took full advantage of having the forward line to herself. She's been an excellent touch this year.
Yeah, she was fantastic. And I love, she's 24 years old as a key forward coming in. That's when you really start to hit your prime. When you're seeing marks like that, she takes at the highest point. That's all just starting to come together. She's kicked 9 goals now for the season. That is a personal best for her.
It's been incredible for the Lions as well to get back on the winners' board. When it comes to the Dogs, though, I thought it was getting away from them in that first half, but actually they responded really well in the second stanza of the match.
Yeah, they actually they kicked more goals technically than the Lions. In the second half, the Lions did kick 4 goals 10, which I don't think Craig Starcevich was thrilled about, Ben. But I've really liked their improvement over the last couple of weeks. They seem to be lengthening the ground. Earlier in this season, they were getting sucked up a bit, which can happen with a young team. Yeah. But we've seen a lot of improvement.
Absolutely. And 35 points to 1 down. You've lost Ellie Blackburn last week.
Yeah.
You'd think it would be enough reason for Toys to be out of the cot at that point, but they really stuck to it. And, credit to them. I think they only lost the rest of that game after being down early by about 13 points. So against a star-studded Lions lineup, that was awesome.
The Western Bulldogs, though, they do remain winless. Then that's also the case for the Collingwood Magpies. And Sarah, to add quite literal insult to literal injury, Bree Davey and Britt Bonici, they're now sidelined.
Bree Davey's the player they can least afford to miss, and she's going to be missing the next 2 games with a concussion due to the 12-day protocol and the midweek footy crunch. Britt Bonici is facing another 1 to 2 weeks on the sideline with a calf issue. By my rough count, at this point of the week, the Pies are sitting at 22 fit players, so they'll need at least 2 top-up players to reach that mark.
It's tricky, isn't it, Ben, when clubs find themselves in these situations?
Yeah, and Michaela Can just suspended as well out this week. So a few huge losses. They've already been playing Jordan Ivey, who's been a top-up player. So it does make it tough when you've got that injury crunch and you've only got 30 players on a list. It's really hard. So
their team's languishing down the bottom of the ladder. But let's go to the top of the ladder because the Eagles are absolutely flying. Sarah, for the first time ever, they've notched back-to-back wins. And for the first time ever, 3 wins in a season. We're only 4 games in. How good?
Yeah, it's been remarkable from the Eagles. It probably isn't a great sign that this is the first time that they've won 3 games in a season. Like, we absolutely love the form that they're in and the work of Daisy Pearce. But, it's been a really tough 5 years for the Eagles, Ben. And finally, they're seeing some reward for effort.
Yeah, and you've had a few players step up too. Like, you've got Ella Roberts, who's absolutely turning into a star of the competition. But I think Ali Drennan has been huge, a huge get for the Eagles. 25 touches the other night, I think in the 30s the previous week. Yeah, she's been a gunner for them. Worked with her at North Melbourne. Fantastic person as well. Great to be around. Brings a lot of energy to a group. But yeah, she's been putting her head over the ball and getting it forward for the Eagles.
So on Sunday we saw another draw. This one between the Gold Coast Suns and the Giants. It's not the only draw we've seen this year. There was one earlier at Arden Street between the Cats and North Melbourne. It begs a question, Ben, and this is a question that comes up in the AFL space quite frequently. Should we have extra time? What's your gut saying?
I quite like the draw personally, but I do think it falls a little bit flat when there's no song after the game.
Yeah.
People might have heard the song that's kicking around online, so maybe they need to bring out a
The
song
draw
to
song.
play, the draw song maybe.
I don't mind it at all. Sarah, what do you think?
I do love a draw, but it's an interesting discussion to have in the context of AFLW, which is obviously a shorter game
Yes.
than the men's. We see the numbers there in terms of the percentage of games drawn. There's, also with the shorter rounds, the shorter number of games in a season, having a draw can have a really marked impact on the ladder, for better or worse. I don't mind it, but it is an interesting discussion point.
In the men's space, I'm a traditionalist. I'm like, you've had so long, if you get to the end and it's a draw, too bad. But these are shorter games, so maybe this is somewhere the AFLW could be a bit innovative, because they have been in other ways, and we always stress it is a different product. Broadcasters, though, it might be a little bit tricky for them, but it's something to keep in mind. Now, Ben, let's discuss the Dees, because we've got you on the show, and look, it hasn't been a horrific start for the Dees, but we are so used to seeing them contend and be at the top of the ladder. You're 1 and 2 with a game to come against Fremantle. Not panic stations, but how are you feeling and seeing how the season's playing out?
Yeah, I think losing a few players over the previous off-season, Libby Birch, Casey Sheriff, Eliza West, and I'm missing one other, but Maddie Gay. We've lost a few players at the Dees. We've had some others step up. I've loved Grace Beasley's move into the midfield. I think she's going to be a real player coming from college basketball, and we've had a few players drop out of the side as well with injury. Taylor Harris, Liv Purcell. So we've had a few injuries as well that we've had to deal with. But yeah, I think it'll obviously be a lot of learnings for these younger players that are coming in. And I think there's some really exciting young players coming in too. I've mentioned Grace Beasley, Licia Pisano's come in and done some pretty exciting things in her first couple of games, and Riley Wotherspoon's another one that I really like.
Mick Stanier is the Melbourne coach. This was in post-match after the loss to North Melbourne, diagnosing the problems.
Yeah, well, they're a very good side. I think for us, it's the contest and clearance. So being able to get our hands on the ball first. That was number one. I think probably the glaring stat out of the game was the score from turnover. That was a significant difference. I think it was 50 points in their favour. So our ability to use the ball and connect.
Mick Stanier there. Sarah, you're working on a piece for AFL.com.au and the AFL Live app. It will go live a little later in the week. What's your study telling you when it comes to the Dees?
Yeah, Ben's talked about the personnel changes that have happened. I'm going to add Lauren Pearce into that mix. She's such a premier ruck of the competition, and unfortunately not having her in and around the footy with her broken wrist has meant that the likes of Tyler Hanks is well down on her usual output. She's not getting her first hands to the footy like she's used to. Grace Beasley's going to take a little bit of time to fill that void left by Eliza West. And then the absence of Liv Purcell. She was averaging 21 touches last year. She's not there. So the Dees are averaging 30 fewer touches at the moment, 5.8 fewer inside 50s and 7 fewer clearances. So they're just not getting their hands on the footy year on year.
And the Dockers present another big challenge coming up, Ben. What's the message coming out of the club this week?
They absolutely do, and I think, as Mick touched on, I think it'll be around the contest that you'll look for a little bit of a change, and whether that's throwing some different personnel into the midfield or throwing some extra numbers up. Not sure yet, and don't want to give away any trade secrets. But
fair enough.
But it'll be interesting to see. Fremantle, I think they've been up and down to start the season, but their best is up there with the best, I think.
Now, there was a little flashpoint in this game in the third term, and it was the skipper, Kate Hoare, and this bone-crunching tackle on a former teammate in Libby Birch. Now, we do believe she's got bruised ribs, potentially broken ribs. Ben, is all fair in love and war when it comes to this kind of thing?
I think it is. Kate's the ultimate competitor, as is Libby, but there's a lot of love between those girls, I know.
Okay, well, one of the stars for North Melbourne, unfortunately, Ben, was Kate Shearlaw. She was sensational, Sarah, kicking 5 goals. And I guess it just shows how talented this side is, North Melbourne, in the front half.
Yeah, teams love using the phrase the lick of the ice cream. It's always going to be someone else's turn, and it was Kate's on the weekend. Career high 5 goals at the age of 35. So she is just getting better and better with age. Ben, I wanted to ask you about her forward craft. She's multifaceted. She can mark it in the air, and she's excellent on the ground as well.
Yeah, she is. I think it's okay for me to use this term, a veteran player.
Hey, 35 isn't too old.
I was called a veteran at 30, 31. So
We've all Woolwich veteran.
As a veteran, she's moving as well as I've seen anyone move. And, you know, her ability to go in the air and on the ground is a real strength. When you tie her in with Talia Randall as the other key pillar, it's really tough. You come in as an opposition coach and you've got to decide, do we take one out or the other? Or do you have two amazing key defenders who can go with them? It's a tough ask.
And of course, one of the most beautiful things about the AFLW is it's such a safe space and it's so accommodating for young families. And Ben, you know this firsthand. This is your daughter, Isla. What is she doing exactly?
Yeah, she did a bit of an activity with Mum in the morning, making some friendship bracelets for a few of the Dees players, and also wanted to make one for Mia King, who is one of our favourites when I was at North Melbourne. Fellow Tasmanian, redhead, so there's
Oh, duh.
but also a lovely person. She was absolutely beautiful with Isla on the weekend, so thanks, Mia.
As someone who's transcended both spaces, do you feel there is a difference when you're in that W space?
I love the culture of W, and that's not to throw any shade at the men's game, but I love how you do have that community aspect. You go along on the weekend. I mean, Hess took both the girls. There were plenty of activities for them to do. They could get on the ground and meet all the players after the game. You just don't get those opportunities in men's games. It's more of an inner sanctum. It's more of a product. You know, and we know that W is going to get there, and it's still developing up to that point. But I think, you know, the ability to go along and really get your kids involved at a local community ground, you get to see the players up close. It's pretty cool.
Just to tie a nice little bow on this Melbourne conversation, I mean, congratulations on your career, recently retired. But I just wonder, what was it like being at Melbourne this season? Because we know that there's been so much going on, no finals, the injury to Christian Petrarca and the fallout from that, Clayton Oliver's pre-season, and even if you think about it, the Angus Brayshaw retirement because of concussion. There was a lot going on, Ben. Yeah,
there was a lot going on, and there were obviously challenges for the Melbourne Footy Club this year. You know, we had Angus at the start of the year, and that was incredibly emotional and you know, a really difficult time for Angus. And, you know, all the players had to sort of make their way through that, but obviously had injuries throughout the year. Yeah, as I said, obviously had our challenges, but it was my last year of footy and I really enjoyed being at the place. So I think I enjoyed this year of football as much as I ever have in football, and you know, I'm really thankful to the Melbourne Footy Club for the last 4 years of my career because you know, I really enjoyed all of it.
You have hung up the boots. You got your farewell game in round 23, the second week, the last week of the season. What is next? I know you're not quite an assistant, a specialist coach, I think the official title is, with the Dees, working with the tall forwards, but what is next for you?
I really enjoy working in the women's space, and I certainly hope that I can continue to do that in some aspect, but I feel like I'm actually really fortunate. I've got a lot of things that I'm passionate about, so where I direct that passion is what I'm working on right now, but I absolutely love being part of the women's space, as we talked about before, the culture. Yeah, it's fantastic.
All right, Ben, we'll get you up for the deep dive with Gemma, and as you're getting up there, Sarah, is it someone's birthday today?
It's actually Adelaide forward Brooke Tonnen's 21st birthday today, but it's also our very own Gemma Bastiani's birthday. Gem, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you, Gem. This is a birthday deep dive and it's got an Adelaide flavour.
Yeah, and it's Danielle Ponter in Adelaide's midfield, Ben, that we're really interested in today. The way she splits her time from centre clearance, centre stoppage and other stoppages is really interesting. Yeah, it is certainly is interesting. We look at the graphic here. Danielle Ponter obviously sitting at the top of their centre clearance rating. And you've got Anne Hatchard, Marinoff, Randall, such a star-studded lineup they've got in there. Yeah, so the way that they balance it is Ponter generally will go to centre bounce. So will Chelsea Randall, but Chelsea Randall's role is a little bit different. It's a bit more blocking, so it allows Ponter to get off the chain. We've got an example here in Vision where Ponter actually starts at the centre bounce. So this is Ponter here, Chelsea Randall and Ebony Marinoff obviously also there, but it's Ponter that's the priority. And once the bounce comes, or the throw up, I always forget, Ponter slowly starts to move into the forward line, doesn't she? Yeah, she does. And that's a similar situation. I'm thinking about the team that I used to play for, the Melbourne Footy Club. Cozzy Pickett would play that similar role. Come up to the stoppage as the centre bounce stoppage and then spit forward. And it really plays into
that particular player's strengths, and the same with Danielle Ponta.
Yeah, so it's a bit more chaotic around clearances around the ground, isn't it? So it probably doesn't suit her as much.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have more numbers at that kind of stoppage, so you want the types like Anne Hatchard and Ebony Marinoff sitting in at those stoppages where they can use their strengths. They really get in and under and can force the ball forward. But at a centre bounce stoppage, you're able to use a little bit more of your pace and electricity that Danielle Ponta brings to that position.
Yeah, so essentially she'll start at the centre bounce, which we saw, but then once the ball gets forward, she doesn't really come back out and she doesn't follow the stoppage back out. So this is her back here. She doesn't come back out to these around the ground. So Ben, we've got another example that you're going to talk us through that's very similar to that one.
Yeah, it is. So in this situation, another centre bounce stoppage, Danielle Ponta gets the free kick here. So again, playing to her strengths. She's able to get in there, able to use Chelsea Randall as a blocker to be able to get her free and use her pace, use her dash. She actually gets this free kick, goes forward, has a shot at goal, misses. The second stoppage, the follow-up stoppage, you see Ponta again sitting forward at that stoppage, and here's Ebony Marinoff in under at the coalface, and the numbers around that stoppage suit the types like Hatchard and Marinoff a little bit more than Ponta, and she can get back inside 50 when we know she's so dangerous.
Yeah, and she kicked 5 goals last weekend. We know she can be deadly at goal. She was their leading goal kicker and leading centre clearance player last year. Based on this, she'll do the same this year. So we'll see what happens on the weekend against Essendon.
Thanks to Jem and Ben there. And while Ben is getting back onto the couch, let's have a look at how the rest of the week is shaking out when it comes to the fixture. Sarah, it continues tonight. Thursday, it's the Lions, the Tigers and the Blues. And there's just footy on every night. It's a smorgasbord.
I know, it rolls on from here. We're seeing a few different home grounds this round because of midweek footy. So broadcast lights come into play, which is why the Tigers are hosting Carlton at their own ground.
And we're going to chat the Gold Coast Suns and Geelong. That is our match of the round. For mine, these two sides have been quite disappointing. I mean, they both played finals last year, and to this point in the season, Sarah, they've both got 2 points to their name.
Yeah, the Cats were the big improvers last year, going all the way to a preliminary final and pushing Brisbane as they went. They would have been absolutely disappointed with this game. It was one of the worst I've seen of them under Dan Lowther. They didn't adjust to the conditions at all. They got inside their own head. They were panicking and, you know, only kicked the 5 points, which I'll be incredibly disappointed with.
I mean, no Chloe Shear, no Georgie Prespakis, Ben. They're just two players, though. Does it excuse these kind of numbers when you're looking at Geelong's forward line woes?
Yeah, and they've probably played a couple of games in this start of the year that have been not ideal in terms of conditions and probably not ideal in terms of taking marks inside 50. But yeah, I think, you know, you see the vision there. The more that you can connect inside 50, you get those easy shots at goal. I don't think Maloney and Parry have had a poor start to the season by any means. I think particularly Jackie Parry's impressed me. But yeah, they'll be looking to get on the end of more, and I think that's where the midfielders can do a little bit of work on their delivery inside 50.
The Gold Coast Suns, Sarah, can you diagnose what's going wrong there?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one from the Suns. They made finals last year but have dropped off significantly. One thing we really noticed in this draw with the Giants, which are lucky to get away with really, the Giants only had 2 on the bench, was their disposal issues. So that can often come down to confidence. If things aren't going to plan, then you panic, you overthink, and things don't quite work out when you've got the ball in hand. I suppose the positive for the Suns is that there's a lot of improvements still to come. Claudia Whitford's dropped off quite a bit this year. She suffered a jarred knee against the Blues. I'm not sure if that's having any play in it. But if Claudia can lift, you know, that'll help Charlie Rowbottom. There'll be a flow-on effect for the rest of the team.
I mean, both sides need to win. That's stating the bleeding obvious. Who do you expect to win, Sarah? Because I expected both these sides to be contending, but I feel like the loser of this match, it's probably season over.
Yeah, my gut says Geelong, but I've really struggled with tipping both these sides this year.
My tipping's horrific. How's your tipping, Ben?
No good either, unfortunately. It's been a bit like that this season, hasn't it? So some teams, I would have expected Geelong to be a little bit higher up the ladder than they are too.
Ben, thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Sarah, brilliant work as always.
Thank you, Sarah.
And thank you so much for joining us on the W Show. Thanks to NAB. There's footy on this evening. There's footy on every night. So go and enjoy it. Want to get all the latest footy news in one hit? From injuries to breaking news, the latest from the coaches, the Footy Feed team has you covered. Watch it now on afl.com.au and the AFL Live app or wherever you get your podcasts.